porch, the scheduled live stream with your bro, DM James, the old man James. Even though I'm not the oldest guy that we hang out with, I was looking at my analytics, and apparently something about my style and content is very attractive to people over the age of 50. And I'll be honest, I'm okay with that. I'm like, all right. So people over the age of 50 that want to talk about old school stuff and bitch and complain and kvetch, as my great grandma would say, this is the place for you. Now I'm going to throw the link in because I do like to have other people on the stream with me. But before I do that, I'm going to do a little update about what has been going on in our OSE Greyhawk game. And that's a lot easier if you don't have your brother or something distracting you. Because, I don't know about you guys, but if you got a brother like mine, he will take it upon himself at all times to distract the shit out of you just because I think he thinks it's fun. And, it is. So we'll just leave it there. Also, before I get going into what went on, which is pretty interesting, some of you might not have enjoyed it, but whatever. I am de-spruing some Terminators. These are E800, E900 series Terminators. Obviously without the cyborg flesh on them. Because, I don't know, honestly, why. But because. So these would be whatever model Schwarzenegger in the original movie was, except, of course, without the meat suit that was required to shoot through time. Now, me personally, I hate pretty much anything that has to do with time travel. I find time travel, just the whole concept of it, to be just not something I like. But hey, why I printed them out, though, for those of you who might be like, well, why would you print out a bunch of these, is because I feel like they will make really good adversaries in a multitude of sci-fi games. So Traveler, these things could be combat bots. Star Frontiers, these things could be guarding a base or something. Or hell, player could even in Star Frontiers, depending if they go PSA robotics, like science robotics. They could literally build one of these things. I do, of course, have a couple of different kinds of the cyborg, but in the human flesh. So that's cool, right? And like right here, let's see, I'll peel him off. I've got the Schwarzenegger from Terminator 2 with the shotgun, These could be used in Gamma World, though. They could be used in Traveler. There's really no end to all the different sci-fi games that, hell, they could be used in Rifts as Skelelots, really. Since I'm pretty sure this is what Rifts based the Skelelots on. And the thing is I did get some of the skeleton cyborg whatevers from Reaper, but they're so small, that they're like, granted, they probably should be a little small because They don't have the flesh on them, but they're really, really small. And that was kind of an issue here. Now, these guys, I have learned, I don't know what it is about these guys. These are like mutant beetles. And for some reason, it is impossible, seemingly, to sprue these guys without breaking their feet off, which then means I have to, get their feet, glue them all back together, etc. Whatever. I mean, it's not hard. It's just a pain. So, anyway, on and so forth. So the players finished clearing out the lost tomb. And yes, that lost tomb, the lost tomb massage camp. They finished clearing it out. And they decided to haul ass back to town and take their ill-gotten gains with them, and then divvy up treasure. They divvied up the treasures they found. I don't know if they divvied up like the Dowd's wondrous lantern. Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing with that. Hey, James Lowry, and how you doing, Daryl? But regardless, they divvied up a lot of the treasure, and they decided to head back down into the Duchy of Geoff, the Archduchy of Geoff, because their friend, the wizard Merrick, lives down there. One of the three brothers that are all wizards and twins, possibly clones. They don't know, and no one else does either. So they head out there, and they bring with them the Demonomicon of Igwelf. Now, they decide that they're not going to mess with that book, right? I guess they learned their lesson after they messed around with Black Razor. So they're like, yeah, we're not messing with this. So after traveling all the way down to the Duchy of Geoff, they get in contact with an NPC, Thomas Merrick, that they're real friends with. And they have him cast a mass teleport spell and teleport them to outside the gates of Greyhawk, where his brother Stefan lives. And they take the Demonomicon to Greyhawk City, request a meeting with the Lords of Greyhawk, and then during the meeting, they have a big, conversation with the various Lords of Greyhawk about how they would like to turn the Demonomicon in to be stored in the vaults of the city of Greyhawk rather than have it, out and about in the world. And of course, the Lords of Greyhawk absolutely agreed with that. So they handed over the Demonomicon, and in return, the Lords of Greyhawk decided to reward them by giving them a home in Greyhawk, like rent free. Like, this is a home, you can live in it, etc., etc. It's a big home, a very wealthy home off of a street called Gold Street, in the wealthy district. And so the players were pretty stoked about that. And that comes to something I do in a lot of my role-playing games, which is non-treasure rewards, right? Like sometimes, I mean, it's always great. Players love getting a pile of gold, obviously. But sometimes it makes more sense, instead of giving them the pile of gold, to give them something that will link them to a place within the setting. So now they have this big house in the wealthy district of Greyhawk. And I mean, big. This house is huge. It's a mansion, basically, right? That they gave them. So the players then spent also. Here's something I want to interject since interjection meatbag. The players spent the majority of the time role playing their characters, talking to NPCs and stuff like that. Then they actually did, doing anything adventurous. It just was one, sometimes there are just games like that where the adventure has wrapped up. The players are all, running around trying to figure out, their next whatever, wrapping up loose ends, etc. And that was the case on this particular game night. The players were a lot more concerned with wrapping up their various loose ends than they were with actually finding another dungeon to immediately jump into. So they got the house, and this is an interesting thing that happened is for some of the players becoming, I don't know, landowners or having a house in Greyhawk or something kind of become like a main plot point to them, because they started, going to their local church that they're a member of and trying to find, candidates to work as staff at their new mansion and hiring them and negotiating with some of these people fair wages. And of course, the players who are pretty much right now rolling in cash because of, if you've ever read through the Lost Tombs, there's just a lot of treasure to be had in that dungeon. And my players found at least half of it. So, so yeah, they're out here, they've got all this money. And one thing that really I thought was interesting, to me at least, was how into setting up their home they were compared to a lot of other things they could have been doing. So after all the role playing with the various NPCs they're friends with, and of course the parting with Sarissa of the Wild Coast, who they had hired to help them, and then befriended. And hey, what's up, Leth? I'll throw the link out in a second. So they befriended Sarissa, who is a level 11 mage, and got her involved in a bunch of stuff, and they made friends. And Sarissa's out to the Lort Hills near the Lort Mill River to build her own mage academy. And she told the players that they're welcome to pop in whenever, as long as they don't interrupt classes, that is. And yeah, so there's just a lot of role playing with the players interacting with different NPCs, but not actually doing anything super adventurous. And, those sometimes can be really good nights, right? I mean, we ended up running late to the point that Hungar had to be like, hey, it's like really late. We need to go ahead and end this sooner than later. And he ended up leaving earlier than everyone else did. But yeah, it is kind of, to me, a little funny how interested a lot of the players were in hiring like someone to be in charge of the staff of the house, And then, of course, they had to hire some kitchen maids and then some housemaids to clean the house. They had to hire a chef, a butler, a stable boy, um, just the whole 9 yards, gardeners and all that. And that was like a big deal. A lot of the players were like super interested in exactly how all that was going to play out. And I mean, spoiler, it played out very well. And I think in the end, everyone was pretty happy with the people that they hired and, everything. So the dwarves, of course, they claimed the basement as their own area, and they're spending money to transform part of the basement into a lavish like living area just for them, because their claim, and I'm not going to argue with it, at least the claim, is that dwarves sleep better underground. You know what I mean? So even though there's plenty of bedrooms for everybody in the party, and then some, they claim the basement. And so that's kind of the summation of the game. Of course, describing what happened in a game always takes like barely, any time compared to actually playing the game, because of all the different interaction and everything. Um, but that's where the game ended. Now, the players are a bit concerned about one thing specifically, and that is that Igwelv's daughter, the vampire, Drueza or whatever, I'd have to look it up. I wrote it down. She survived the final encounter because the cleric cast a turn on her and miraculously succeeded. I mean, it was like, holy cow, right? He needed an 11 plus and he got it. So she fled away from them. They spent the time she was fleeing, quickly looting everything and found the hidden compartments and everything and looted everything up. And then they immediately fled back out the way they had come and used a spell, Dimension Door, which is not in the OSC Advanced Rulebook, but I allow spells from the Greyhawk books and stuff like that into my game. I call them lost magics or ancient magics that are no longer common, but with a lot of hard work, and if you find scrolls and stuff, you could learn these spells that have fallen out of use within, the common mage school experience, let's say. So Sarissa had the Dimension Door spell, and they Dimension Doored, away from that area and ran up the ramp from the Dracula's lair. And when they got out there, they used their flying magics to fly around the mountain to the path and then run down. So then by the time the vampire got done being terrified, she come running back looking for them. They were gone and it was daylight outside. And she's not immune to daylight. You know what I mean? So she had to stay there. They went to the local town, paid off all their hirelings, and immediately headed south out of town to from Bissell to the Grand March. So I guess what I'm basically saying is they spent all of their time actually role playing with NPCs and doing things in the game world, but they all realize in the background that there's a very angry vampire who's also a level 11 fighter that's super pissed off and would really like to see all of them dead. And we'll probably come tracing them down at some point when it becomes, more convenient for her to do so. Being a vampire traveling across country isn't the easiest thing if you're not 100% sure where you're going to lay low when the sun rises. So there she is doing her thing, and they're in Greyhawk, but not intending to stay. Their next journey is to head to the Principality of Uluk. So home again, home again. We've come full circle now, because the orcish and goblinoid forces of the Pamarj have been invading the borders of the Principality of Uluk. And they're going to go down there, especially the dwarves, because that's where they're from. They want to go down there and get involved to try to protect their homeland from the invading orcs and goblins, or Ghibli and Irks. But that's basically what happened. So it was a good game, and we'll see what they get into next week. So yeah, and it ended with a lot of them being very near to leveling and stuff. So they're pretty stoked about that too. They didn't level, but they're within a couple thousand XP, and when you start getting up to like level 8, 9, 10 in OSE, being within a couple thousand XP of leveling is actually a pretty big deal. What's up, George? How you doing, man? So I got a couple of things I really want to get painted today. I already kind of did the base on them. There's Leth. So I need to grab my black. What's up, Leth?
Hey,
How you doing, man?
leveling. Ha.
Leveling.
I never have to figure it. I'd never have to worry about that in my games.
Well,
Games I
because
used to play.
there are no levels.
Yeah.
One thing I did, like Gamma World doesn't have levels, but what I did is I actually went into Gamma World Second Edition, I should say. I actually went into Casper Urbanski's role playing game, Lion and Dragon, I think. And I took the charts for the fighter, the thief, not the cleric, obviously, nothing that casts magic, but like the mundane classes. And I made it where as the players gain experience from playing, they actually will go up a level, but the only thing that happens if they go up a level is they get to roll on one of these charts, which can give them like a bonus to their attack roll, or something like that, raise an attribute, or gain a skill. So because I love second edition Gamma World. I do. I think it's the best edition. But one thing I know is that my players will not be happy with a game where, no matter how much adventuring they go through, they can never improve their characters. So I made it where it'll be random. I don't know if you've seen Lion and Dragon before, but like if you're playing the fighter and you go up a level, you roll on a chart, and it'll either give you like a bonus to hit with a specific weapon, additional hit die, bonus to different things like that. Like there are no saving throws in Gamma World, so the saving throws I replaced with skills. And then for skills in the version of Gamma World that I'm using, I've decided to just use the proficiencies from Wilderness uh, Guide from. Uh, See, that's Gamma World. Uh, since that is on exactly what we're talking about, in Gamma World, instead of leveling, they expect the reward to be gear. But the issue with that is
I
some
guess.
players won't care about gear so much.
Yeah.
And so their characters, no matter how many times they go into Pittsburgh and fight cyborgs or whatever, their characters just are never going to advance unless they're like mutants of some sort and they go bathe in some radiation or get, caught up in a cloud of nanites or something. So by adding this was a problem with Classic Traveler. The main issue everyone had with Classic Traveler was you never leveled. And people bitched about that. And that is why in Modern Day Traveler, they added a lot more methods by which characters can improve besides just getting money. And then
I
in
guess that is,
BRP, every time you use a skill, there's a chance,
that'll go up.
it'll go up.
That's your improvement system is that you have a lot of skills that can go up.
Yeah, and that's people who've played Call of Cthulhu or any of the BRP type games, they'll know that, If
Yep.
you spend all of your time at the research doing research, then your library research skill will go up by like 1 die 10 sometimes.
Some of
Percentiles.
them probably in that version. My version it was far more brutal.
Right. So
You had a chance that if you rolled under it, it could go up, and then it was like a D6 -1.
yeah, you got to roll under it and then you roll to see how much it can go up. That's true. So the higher it gets, the
harder it
the
is.
harder it is to actually advance.
But there is
But
technically no
that's
cap.
good. I mean, you can, yeah, as long as you roll, like if you roll a 0-1,
That's a crit. You
that's a
actually get
crit,
bonus.
and no matter what your skill level is, it could go up.
Yep.
So you could see a character in Traveler, or not Traveler, in Call of Cthulhu with like an incredibly high skill.
Like 200-300 if you
I mean,
played it
in
long enough. It would
theory, I
take you
mean, you
forever.
have to roll a lot of,
Yeah.
crit successes.
And if you played long enough, you could eventually, possibly, it's not likely, get to that point.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could definitely see a character with like a 90 skill.
100,
And in Call of
over 100
Cthulhu, if
sometimes.
you've got a guy and he's got a 90 skill in something,
He's a master at it.
that's like, yes, that's beyond like a PhD. That's like, this guy is a true master, virtuoso of, whatever the skill is. But I mean, could you get higher than 100? Well, let's say
Yeah.
you had an 80 and you rolled so that you could get a skill roll. So you rolled over an 80, and then you rolled really good on that skill roll, and then you did it again. Let's say you rolled a 90 and then you did it again. You rolled like a 99 and then you rolled whatever for your skill advancement. Yeah, you could have a character with 100 skill.
Over 100. You can.
Yeah,
It's
or
just
even
fun.
over. But then again, because there's going to be penalties to certain things you try to do, in Call of Cthulhu, you could use a half or a fifth of your skill level to do a thing. So that 100 becomes a 20. So, and a lot of times that's what happens if you get wounded really bad.
Yeah.
Is you have to start using like the 2/3 or the 1/2 skill level because your character's all effed up. But See, in Gamma World, let's say they go into Pittsburgh a billion times. They fight a bunch of dark, masters, which are basically the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal. Or they fight a bunch of stuff. They might even find some artifacts, not saying they'll ever figure out how they work. The players, because all of my players cut their teeth on D&D, they're still going to want to know if their player actually learned anything, especially since my Gamma World game, like many of them, is going to start out with their rite of passage, where they have to leave their hidden village, go out into the world, and find resources and stuff to bring back to help the village. And if they succeed at that, then they can become full members of their society. And the village is hidden, because once you get outside of that area where the village is hidden, it's literally bedlam. Mutant hordes roaming around. You've got all the cryptic societies. So you've got mutants that think all pure strain humans should be put to death. And you've got pure strain humans that think all mutants should be put to death. And then you've got mutant animals that think all humans, whether muted or not, should be put to death. And then you've got your run-of-the-mill, like Book of Eli guys that are just hanging out waiting to murder somebody to steal their last can of Spam. So, it's a horrid place to be. And that is the world in which they find themselves going off into. So do they deserve a little bit of XP as they play and survive through the game? I think, yeah, their characters should get better. And as
Sounds
a result,
like they're getting to home building, though.
well, plus one thing though, Leth, is it helps with the pure strain humans who gain nothing except any gear they might find once the game starts.
Yep.
They get their bonus to charisma and their bonus to con and a bonus to their hit points, so they're tough and shit. And a lot of times robots that aren't really effed in the brain will listen to them, but that's it. They never get better than that. And I can tell you right now, the people playing the humans in the campaign, they're not going to enjoy playing a game for 6 months. And other than gear changes, which change rapidly in Gamma World, because sure, you find a slug throwing pistol, that's great until you run out of ammo. And then it's a paperweight until you find more ammo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I get it. I could see some systems needing something to give the players.
That was the big disadvantage with this game.
Yep.
Is the only real disadvantage. So I'm cobbling together the thing like where you random roll on a chart to see what your character learned. And it can go anywhere from pick an attribute that's under the max level, raise it by 1. That will be like the good thing. Or it could be like gain an extra hit die worth of hit points. So mutants and mutant animals get die 6. Pure strain humans get die 8. Or it could be gain a skill of your choice. And you could then look through my list of proficiencies and say, my character wants to get better at mountaineering. Since most of the things you do in the game are actually attribute rolls, a lot of them, or you could get a bonus to your attack roll with a certain weapon. Like, well, my character is really good with this assault rifle we found. So I'm going to choose to give myself +1 to hit with assault rifles.
James, I'm going to warn you, don't give them grenades.
Well, there are grenades in the game. They could find them.
I know.
And they could blow themselves up with them, or maybe, do something.
That's not how you kill your friend. This is how you kill your friend.
Well, I mean, think about this too. They could find a frag grenade, and if the Fellowship of the Reprobates, what's up, bro?
Hey, Vic.
If they roll bad enough on trying to figure out what the artifact actually is, they could detonate the artifact.
Yeah.
In their hands. So they've got like an M67 frag grenade. They have no idea what it is. they're monkeying around with it, and one of them's like, "What's this ring?"
Yeah, sort
And then they're standing there, and boom, off it goes, and everybody in the area catches, a
death
bunch of
in the
frag
face.
damage. I mean, that's just a
Oh,
side effect of the fact that because the city they live in right now, which is pretty south of the Pittsburgh area in the Allegheny, is it's about the technology of 1600 something America. So, yes, there is a guy in the town that can make muskets. And they do understand that by mixing charcoal and saltpeter and whatever, sulfur, that you can make black powder. But that's about the height of their technology, right? So, and also the gamma world itself is just a dangerous place to live, which means the town is always needing just more and better stuff, whether it's battery packs. Saltpeter is a chemical that you mix with sulfur and crushed up charcoal to make black powder.
also, it's Saltpetre, right?
I don't know how it's spelled. It is also something that they say back in World War II, the Army used to add to the rations of its soldiers because apparently small doses of saltpeter would make it where soldiers would not become aroused and horny and maybe, rapey or gay or whatever. Now, I don't know if that second part is actually true,
I highly doubt it.
but I have heard that the Army did that. Yeah, it's a mineral. Saltpeter is a mineral.
Yep.
It has to be dug out of the ground, So the easiest part actually is the charcoal because all you got to do is burn the wood
Yep.
to make charcoal and grind the charcoal up. And then also, if you've got easy access
I think you
to
can get
sulfur.
Wait, actually, couldn't you replace saltpeter with bat guano?
I think that bat guano might have saltpeter in it,
Yeah,
or it
that's what
might
it
be
was. Yeah,
derived from it.
probably.
Yeah, I think so because there was a time period back then when they were mining bat guano like crazy because
It was used in the explosives.
it was used to make explosives, and I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Of course, this would be before they started making ball powder and stick powder and smokeless gunpowder and stuff like that. So yeah, we're talking like it was a big deal in the time of the breech loading smooth bore musket, and also in Army of Darkness. Because if you watch Ash versus the Army of Darkness, there's a whole bit where he busts out his basic college chemistry book and he opens it up and he starts making gunpowder, to make little explosives and shit like that. So, yeah, you could probably figure it out, honestly. I mean, someone figured it out. And if they could figure it out, George, with a little bit of study and research, you could figure it out too. But the point is, their little village needs power cells. It needs, water purification filters and all the various other things. They could have used piss. Hey, it could have been somehow refined from I just almost said urine when I meant what's it called? The thing in urine that makes it smell so bad. Ammonia.
Ammonia.
It could have something to do with ammonia. Yeah, Captain Kirk figured that shit out when he was fighting the Gorn. right? He found the sulfur and a diamond and some bamboo, and the next thing you know, he built a freaking handheld diamond projecting bazooka and shot that Gorn in the face with it. So it can be done, I guess, is the point I'm making. But that's kind of the tech level the characters are at. So they can carry a musket if they want, but muskets in Gamma World suck. They suck. They do like they
No, they
don't
have
do a great amount of damage. They take a long time to load.
reload and
And I mean, so yeah, it's like they're the most common weapon that things are using, muskets and shotguns, but
yeah.
you know, or scatter guns. I mean, you might run up on a mutant Colorado beetle, and that mutant Colorado beetle might have a double-barreled shotgun that it's been toting around. And if it's a really primitive one, then that means it's one of them that it has to load, by breach, and then drop a handful of metal scraps and whatever down the barrel. And
Basically a double-barreled blunderbuss.
basically exactly that, lad. Exactly that. A double-barreled blunderbuss, right? Of course, you might also run into a group of mutants that struck it rich because maybe they found an old
Armory.
or just a gun store that no one else had found before them, and now they're actually carrying like a SPOS 12. And maybe they've got a couple hundred rounds of ammo on them, and they figured out how all that shit works. So those guys could be an issue because you're running around with your hobbled together melee weapons and muskets and bows and arrows and whatever. And these guys got, automatic shotgun or semi-auto. The big equalizer in this is the mutant powers. But the issue with that is that whatever mutant powers your players have, some of the monsters they fight are going to have as well. Like Bubba brought up the other day, one of his favorite, I think it was Bubba, it might have been Doc though, the hoppers or hoops. They're mutant rabbits, and their deal is that they can turn metal into rubber. They have the mutant ability to touch something metal and turn it into rubber. So if you're running at them with a musket and a bayonet and they manage to grab it, I mean, now your bayonet's just rubber.
That's weird.
It's the mutant powers make no sense, dude. There's one of the guys in my group that's got a mutant power that when he turns it on, it just starts draining the hit points from everyone within a radius around him and healing him. And it doesn't give a shit whether they're friends or foes.
Vampirism, huh?
They call it life leech.
Oh yeah,
But it doesn't give a shit whether the person is a friend or a foe. It's just anyone within however many feet starts losing hit points and he starts gaining up to his max. And
I have an ability
they don't have a huge max.
To irradiate healing around me.
Well, one of the characters has an ability that's it's literally called true healing or some shit. It's a mental ability. They have to make a mental check to succeed, but if they do, and they're touching a friend or something, they can cause them to knit their wounds. Hungar's mutant raccoon has regeneration. So his character is like Wolverine. He just heals hit points.
If anything, why don't they just call the healing ability soft-boiled?
I don't know. I mean, they could call it whatever, right? But
joking though, because that's what Chansey gets for a move called soft-boiled, and it heals the Chansey.
I don't. Oh, you're talking
Pokemon,
man. I don't know anything about that. And then the mutant deer that's in the group, he has the physical mutation of wings. So I printed out a mutant deer. and added wings. So he does have a not a great ability to fly, but can fly. Definitely can glide. And also, there's a mutant sloth in the group who has photosynthetic skin. So they're green. And they only have to eat half as much as any other person would,
So they're a
because as
plant.
long as they have water and they stand in the sunlight, they photosynthesize like a plant. So, and then of course, one of the mutant humans might as well be called Dr. or no, Magneto. His
Magnetism.
mental power is control of magnetism. So, of course, like I said, anything you do in this game requires a check. A die 20 check, and if you don't make it, then George, it was very common in that era for people to carry, they even have a name for it. It's called a brace of pistols, and that means 2 pistols. And then people like John Teach,
Yeah, the bandolier.
yeah, that guy carried like 6 pistols.
Yep.
Or William Teach, whatever,
William Teach, yeah.
Blackbeard,
William
I think it was
Teach.
William. But anyway, when they finally killed that guy, but he had like 6 pistols all the way up, the front of him, because it was easier to pull a new pistol and fire it than to reload a pistol mid-combat.
Yeah.
So you go into the combat, fire your pistol, fire the air pistol, fire pistol, fire pistol, fire pistol, fire pistol, drop the lot of them, pull the sword out, and get involved with it. I mean, that was incredibly common back in the era of colonization and piracy and whatever. And also in Warhammer fantasy roleplay, if you do play a character that can use black powder weapons, which is pretty much anything Imperial or Dwarves, it's not uncommon for a character to have a brace of pistols along with their rapier and main gouge. So they're basically Solomon Kane. I'll be right back. I forgot my drink out there.
Okay.
Don't yawn.
Sorry. Let's see here. So how have you been doing, Vic and George?
All right. Let's wind my way through this mess of piled up miniatures waiting to be painted. Yeah, the one guy that was on Legion of Myth one time, he plays a lot of Gamma World, and he talks about a lot. The Elite Dungeon Master, I think. However, I think his particular flavor of Gamma World is the 4th edition, which does have classes and levels, and so your character can choose to be a warrior, a scout, a scholar, whatever, right? It's not a bad game. It's basically 3rd edition before 3rd edition, because almost all of the rules changes you see in 3rd edition D&D make an appearance in 4th edition Gamma World by TSR. Last of the Mohicans was a great movie.
I haven't really seen
And the song that it's best known for was written and is mostly performed by an Irish folk musician. The song Last of the Mohicans, it's an Irish folk musician that created that song.
I haven't really seen it in a very long time.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's a weird movie because it's a movie where the bad guy is understandable, because basically the bad guy kind of is this Indian, right? And his wife and everything got killed. So he goes on this vengeance fueled murder spree. So yeah, he is kind of the bad guy, but at the same time, it's like you can
You
kind
see
of see
why
where
he
he's
did it.
coming from. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
Magua was yeah. One thing the movie does that I was really impressed with is it doesn't sugarcoat what the Indians that the early colonists were dealing with were like. You know, like some of the tribes were actually pretty decent. They were okay, by and large, overall, they were okay. And some of them were absolute monsters that would torture you slowly to death over days, do crazy ass shit. And I love it when hippies, my mom was one of these for a while until I de-invested her of her mistake. Talk about the Native Americans never fought wars. Oh yeah, watch the Last of the Mohicans. That's all they did, nonstop. That is all they literally did, and it was like is crazy, man. But yeah, that whole movie was amazing. It was a great movie. It's like the bad guy's not a one-dimensional character. He's got a reason to be the way he is, and the good guys got flaws. And then you've got like the French officer and the British officer, and there's so much going on, and every character is interesting. So I'll tell you, I know you don't watch a lot of movies left, but Last of the Mohicans is a movie worth watching
I
for
know.
sure.
I've seen it.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you didn't.
I've said I haven't seen it in a long time.
Oh yeah, when they have to walk the gauntlet and shit. I knew a guy in real life that I hung out with. His name was Danny Rainbird, and he was Lakota Sioux, and he had those big scars on his shoulder blades where they had cut him open and hooked him to knotted cords with the rib bones of an animal, and he had to dance around in a circle. And at the end of each of those long knotted cords they had made was like a bunch of buffalo skulls. And that was part of their thing that they did. Like when sometimes they cut them through the chest or the back and they hang them up off of a pole. This was similar to that, except it was doing a dance while dragging buffalo skulls behind you on like a 15-foot cord that is hooked directly through your freaking back. A Man Called Horse. Yeah. The last 30 minutes when they're running through the waterfall and all that shit, it's pretty amazing. And basically, because what happened to Mogwai, he had gotten it into his mind that he was going to wipe out all the British civilians, like all of them, in revenge, right? Which is maybe not the best thing he should have been doing, but that was what he wanted to do. And he was definitely making it happen. You know what I'm saying? He was out there in the woods doing his thing. So, but I completely understood where he was coming from. And I think that's the important thing. When you write a villain, it's like
You make them.
you
I
make them
guess you can
where,
make them relatable.
yeah, I mean, at least a little bit. I'm not saying
Yeah.
you want to make them where it's like, is he the villain or just the good guy? No, but you
No.
make them where
You can understand where
you
they're
can
coming from.
understand why they lost their shit. Like
Yeah.
Magneto in the movies is a great example of that. Like you watch the X-Men movies and you're like, yeah, I kind of get where Magneto's coming from. But the problem with Magneto is he
Takes it
actually
too far.
become
He becomes the thing that he
the
wanted
thing
to.
he hated.
Yeah.
Like now in the original comic books, Magneto was never in a concentration camp.
No.
And it was a war between two made-up countries,
Yeah.
essentially.
They made
In
up.
the movie, they did the concentration camp thing, which, hit a lot of people pretty hard, right? In the
Yeah.
fills, because people to this day, maybe rightly so, they still get a little bit tetchy about, all that shit that went down, right? But yeah, the point was with Magneto, he started out as the out group that was being murdered for existing. And then he become a member of the in group that wanted to murder all these people for existing. Yeah, the British officer, he was actually really good. Everybody in that movie was good, man. Everybody, I mean, we can anybody watching this that has for some reason, I like I said, the average demographic of my show is 50 plus years old. So I assume most of you guys have seen Last of the Mohicans. But if you happen to be a young guy that hasn't, also, I got like 1% females. So
In
to the
my
lady
school.
out there, hello, lady. Hello, lady. You know,
Hello, lady.
like freaking Andre the Giant in Princess Bride.
I was thinking of the this other one, the comedian, the one
Uh,
that's like, oh yeah, he does all those weird sounds for some reason.
I
I don't
was
think he was
thinking
funny, but
more of
weird.
when they finally win at the end of the Princess Bride and they come out of the window and they see Andre Giant in the courtyard with all the horses. And
Okay,
like
fair.
Wesley's like, this is, Buttercup, and the Giants are like, hello, lady. And then he's like, Inigo, I was wandering around and look what I found, these horses. And Inigo's like, Fezzik, you finally did something right. And Fezzik's like, I won't let it go to my head. I mean, that's really a great movie too. But
With lots of Mohicans, apparently there was like a teacher in our school that would play it all the time.
now was Daniel Day-Lewis also the guy in Gangs of New York? Because man, I think it was Daniel Day-Lewis that played the guy wearing the top hat that hated the Catholics in Gangs of New York. That guy, the Hatchet or whatever they called him. Oh my God, brutal. That guy. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to add a couple of little things to my Gamma World game so that players can over time become more skillful with different weapons or different non-weapon skills, crafts, etc. Bill the Butcher, yeah. And I'm doing that because I feel like it is just something that is necessary in role-playing games, because players, if they are forced to just never advance, no matter what equipment you give them, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, if they
They're
don't
not
feel
going to
like
like
they're
it.
advancing, they're not gonna like it. That is fair.
See, what's weird is like a game that came out very near the same exact time as Gamma World did, Star Frontiers, has a whole XP system with skills and the whole 9 yards. So I'm not 100% sure.
What the devs were
And I think
thinking.
they were both written originally by James Ward.
Hmm.
So it's really weird. Like if you play basic Shadowrun, then no. But if you play the advanced Shadowrun, the one where you get to pick your primary skill, PSAs, and then you can actually spend points to raise skills and maybe even gain new skills, which just for fun, I put out a little text in my game group like, pick what you want to play, and I put Yazirian. I put all of the Gamma World classes from the basic Gamma World. So none of them from Zebulon's Guide. And then I put all of the PSAs, including, and PSA is primary skill something, including Nighthawk. So Spacer was added to the list. And the response was actually really good. The lady who plays the gnome in the group right now, the gnome thief illusionist, she chose a Vrusk scientist. And then the guy who plays the ranger, he chose a human spacer. Another guy chose a Yazirian military PSA. Of course, my brother chose a Dralosite engineer PSA. And I think my bro Tony, he chose a Dralosite because at my game table, those of you who know Star Frontiers, at my game table, Dralosites are the most popular race. I don't know why, but you start talking Star Frontiers, and all of a sudden you've got like half of the group talking about Dralosites. And it just is that way, you know. My players love them some Dralosites. Now, for those of you who are sitting there being like, what in the hell is a Dralosite? I, for whatever reason, am a 5e player. I don't know what a Dralosite is. In 5e, lame ass space edition, Dralosites are called plasmoids. But in Star Frontiers, they're called Dralosites. Now, that's not as horrible as you might think of a thing, because now, if I want, I can go online and buy plasmoid miniatures and just put modern weapons in their hands, you know, like clip their axe or spear, whatever, off and throw an auto pistol or something like that from one of my North Star miniatures kits. And voila, Dralosite. They also have Yazirians in 5e Space Idiocy, but they're the ones that got them in trouble for racism, because the Yazirians are basically the flying monkeys. What did they call them? Hadozi for some reason. Yeah. So the ones that they got in trouble for racism about, in Star Frontiers, they're called Yazirians. They have their little home world, which is low grav. So they tend to be a little bit lanky and tall. And they have membranes between their underarms and their bodies, like a flying squirrel. So in certain gravity levels, they can actually glide. And the lower the gravity, the longer the distance they can glide. And like the Ranger in AD&D and other versions of D&D, Yazirians can choose an enemy. And that enemy can be anything. It can be another race. It can be an organization. It can even be a disease. And they get bonuses anytime they're trying to do anything to defeat their life foe, you know. Whereas Dralosites, basically, for those of you who don't know, they look like giant beanbag chairs, except they can create arms and legs out of themselves. They're pretty much a giant leathery skinned amoeba, and they based on one of their attributes and stuff like that will determine how many limbs they can control at any given time. But one of their things is to, if they can control 5 limbs, they'll create 3 legs and splay them out like a tripod. And then that stabilizes them so they can fire heavy weapons without getting, you know, beat up by recoil so much. They also tend to be very strong because of just the nature of their construction. But when they eat something, they literally just put it next to their body and then envelop it and pass it through their outer membrane into the internal part of them. And yeah, so they eat like a single-celled organism or an amoeba. And then Rusk looked like a praying mantis, except instead of the mantis arms in the front that are made to grab and hold things while they eat it, they have hands. But they're not human hands. They're like 4-fingered, and the fingers are equal distant apart. So a lot of Rusk weapons, instead of having a handle, it's a ball. And their fingers grab the ball, and then there's a button where they can actually trigger the weapon. So yeah, they can't really comfortably use human weapons very well. But their thing is they're hyper logical and very, very intelligent. And they tend not to have families. They tend to join corporations when they're young, and then the corporation becomes their family. So if a Russ joins Toyota, they will be forever loyal to the Toyota corporation until they drop dead. The good news is that corporation will never fire that Rusk because, you know, so yeah, they're hatched out of eggs, and instead of forming actual biological families, they form families based on whatever they're interested in. So if it's building cars, then yeah, you know. I mean, how many of you guys in chat have played either Gamma World or the original Star Frontiers at all anyway? Or am I just sitting here talking about the ancient magic and you guys don't really know much about it?
Like me.
Like poor Leth, who actually not poor Leth. Leth plays a bunch of BRP games, and BRP is a great system. Yeah. But see, here is my still intact, well, mostly intact, because I mean it's beat the shit out of second edition Gamma World game. I remember I bought this in a store that specialized in remote control cars. Do you guys remember back in like the late 80s when the whole remote control car thing was like a huge thing? And we're talking the ones that actually took gasoline or alcohol or whatever.
My nephew would like that.
Yeah, I mean, that was like the thing back in the day.
I would like that once he gets a little bit older.
Yeah, these things, they like, you didn't buy the car. Well, you could buy the cars, but what a lot of people did is built them. So you would buy like models, the engine, the freaking suspension, different tires, and then they had like different cases you could attach to it that could look like whatever, and you could get them pre-painted, or they came in like, you know, plastic, and you could paint them yourself. And it was a huge hobby back then for people who had a lot of money. But I happened to stop in this store because it said hobby store. And of course, 99.9% of the store was these damn cars, which I couldn't afford. And then on a back shelf, just kind of hanging off the wall, there was a couple of TSR box sets. And since I was already there and I had $20 burning a hole in my pocket, you know what I mean? I'd worked hard for my $20. And the only game I saw there that looked super interesting to me was Gamma World. And it was that one, the second edition. That's the one I bought. And I took it home and we ran it, probably wrong, for a while. It's about the fifth most played or sixth most played game in my life. Because when it comes to games I've played the most in my life, the number one is by far and away AD&D, and then, or just D&D. Let's just say D&D, some version of D&D. Number two is probably Middle Earth role playing / role master, but really Middle Earth role playing. Number three is Star Frontiers, and then Shadowrun, and then Traveler, and then Gamma World. Those were the big games. And then in between all of that, we would have short campaigns of like Twilight 2000, stuff like that. Call of Cthulhu. But those games never lasted a long time because all the players always ended up dying horribly. You know. Or, you know, the game ended with like half of the group dead and the other half of the group permanently
maimed.
not maimed. I was going to say put into a mental asylum.
Ah,
So yeah, you're right. Maimed, just not physically maimed, mentally maimed,
yeah.
emotionally maimed. And that's how a lot of our old school Call of Cthulhu games, that's how they ended. I mean, it'd be like the adventure
Got to
would
be kind of
start,
careful, but
people
yeah.
would start doing stuff, and then the next thing you know, people would die, somebody would go insane, and
See, with
and then
Call of
that would be
Cthulhu,
the end of that for a while
I
because
think the players have to be one a little bit careful, but the DM also shouldn't try to make it too hard to kill people.
well, I a lot of times before I got more imaginative or whatever, or I got better at stealing other people's ideas, I'll cop to either one really. I ran pre-written adventures more often than not.
Yeah,
So when we played Star Frontiers, we played Sundown on Stardust. We played um, Mission to Alcazar, Dramoon Run. I mean, we played all the adventures for that. And when we played Gamma World, we played Famine in Fargo all the way to, something of the ancients or whatever. Um, it wasn't until I got a little bit older in my life as a gamer that I started actually writing my own adventures. But yes, George, Bill the Butcher, maniac,
with
maniac.
Call of Cthulhu, I think it's meant to be more about having your character slowly go into madness. Maybe some will die because that's just going to happen. But I think it's meant mostly to have the characters go crazy over time.
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of things in Call of Cthulhu that won't make you insane, but can still kill you.
Yep.
And the number one thing that some of my players would always end up getting killed by, believe it or not, would be like cultists. Because
Fair.
if you bust in on a cultist and they're in the middle of their ceremony, doing whatever the hell it is they're doing,
You
right?
got to plan and prepare for that. You can't just burst in and think you're going to be the hero.
Well, the problem is these cultists a lot of times are humans, right?
Yeah.
And that means they might have, an automatic 9mm shotgun, a 38 revolver, whatever on them.
A Thompson.
Yeah, just whatever, right? So you run in and decide to bust up the ritual and save the children or the woman or whatever that they're getting ready to sacrifice to whichever dark god it is they're worshiping. And the next thing you know, you get in a firefight. And I mean, you play BRP, so
It's not
you
going to go
already
well.
know. Like if somebody unloads on you with a 12 gauge shotgun and they roll relatively decent,
That's it.
and you ain't got armor. This is 1920. You're wearing your freaking Humphrey Bogart jacket like freaking Philip Marlowe or some shit. Some guy shoots you with a double barrel 12 gauge, you're done. That's
Oh,
just
you can't have the vest of Nokia's yet.
right. So most of the characters in my campaign that actually died, that's kind of what killed them. But they were doing the right thing. They were
They were.
busting in, they were trying to bust up the ceremony. Maybe they're trying to arrest the cultists because, they had been deputized or whatever it was. They had like cops with them, whatever. But, when the bad guys are a bunch of people up in, Massachusetts or whatever, and they've got guns too. Um, and like I said, Leth can attest for me. That game takes getting shot very seriously.
Yeah, getting
Very
shot,
seriously.
stabbed, or really anything. A lot of things can easily kill you.
Right, right. Like the characters might get into a scrap with deep ones, right? Deep ones can cause you to lose a bit of sanity. They can also just rip your head off.
Yep.
However, if you're playing a character like a gang member, a gangster or cop, detective, whatever, and you're packing a 45 automatic, guess what? You can punch holes in a deep one and kill him too. Because at the end of the day, they are mortal creatures, and you can absolutely kill them, which might make you feel better about life. But then again, your character has to deal with the knowledge that under the ocean, there's this whole other species of intelligences that want nothing more than to inbreed with humanity and maybe one day destroy all humanity. So that's not a good thing. Uh, so yeah, you don't have to throw Cthulhu or a Starspawn on a player character group to wreck that player character group.
No.
I mean, just a bunch of simple, like I haven't written it fully down yet, but the adventure I keep talking about writing. I mean, think about this. You go to bust up the ritual to this dark fertility goddess, Shub-Niggurath, right? In eastern southeast Kentucky. What are the chances that some of these cultists got some shotguns, 30-06, something like that,
Oh,
laying about?
common. That's gonna be common. Cause
Yeah, that's going to be common
very
because they
common.
use them to hunt when they're not worshiping, the
Yeah.
dark goat of the wood. They still got to put venison
That's
in the
why,
wood.
again, if I was in that situation, I would plan out meticulously just to make sure to get out as safely as possible.
Well, I mean, my brother, a lot of times he'll make a character that's like he he'll use the player's book and make a character that's like a World War I veteran, which means he loses sanity, but he gains a bunch of combat skills because he saw horrible shit in the trenches,
Yeah.
but at the same time he knows how to use you know all the different rifles and shotguns and machine guns and whatever that they used in World War I. And sometimes he might set himself up with a Springfield 1903 and a scope, which is a really good tool to have if you're trying to bust up a cult,
Yep.
since you can start whacking them at 1,000 yards. and
Nothing they can do really.
and there's not a whole lot they can do but run and take cover because you're hitting them with that 30-06 at 1,000+ yards. Uh, what's funny is we used the Springfield 1903 as the standard issue sidearm, or I mean main arm of our soldiers in World War I, and in World War II all the way up almost into Vietnam, we classified it into a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Like when the Garand came out, we didn't get rid of the Springfield 1903. We just threw a scope on that bitch.
Yeah, and it worked out well enough.
And it worked out very well. And there were some snipers, even up into Vietnam, that chose to forego the M21 or whatever else they were carrying and went with the 1903.
I think the worst idea was actually putting a scope on the Garand.
Well, yeah, that's, the M21 is just an M14
Yeah.
with a scope. Brother, avenge me, brother. If you need a link and you can't find it, let me know, brother. But
That makes me think of the thing I was watching. I was watching the cartoon, like these little animations that this one group made about like 40K.
oh, fighting furries.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where it comes from.
I know. But it's like the thing I liked about it. This one was about Bluey.
Oh God.
Yeah, he goes in there trying to take out the Bluey family, and then finds out that there's a bunch of furries. At the end, they're like acting like he's gonna be sad that he almost killed the Bluey family. He's like, "I'm sorry, I thought you were furries, but you weren't. Actually, you're cat mutants. I'm gonna kill all of you."
I've got this shirt that's like it's got the Space Marine raging out on it, and it just says "Avenge me, brother."
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
guess that Space Marine got stuck up a furry's butt.
yeah, that happened.
Yeah, those guys are a little bit nuts.
Yes.
And then there's that other cartoon that came out a little bit, and it's like Space King.
Yeah, they did that because of the whole situation with them trying to say you can't do Warhammer 40K animations anymore.
Yeah, so they did Space King. They land on a world and they start throwing all the girls into volcanoes and they take all the boys and pump them full of whatever and turn them into anger marines or whatever the hell they are.
Yeah.
And they're just running around killing everything. Pretty good stuff. But yeah, we were just talking about Gamma World and Star Frontiers, and then Leth got me distracted with Avenge Me Brother. But
Avenge me, brother.
that is really good though. That was really good though.
I like the Sonic one too.
Did you see the one where like they capture the furry and they're trying to figure out like why it's a furry?
Yeah.
And it turns out it's like a 17-year-old kid that like really hates his dad or some shit. And then it tries to take over them. And like, so it's got this whole psycher thing going on. And then they're like, we must find where the furry started. And it turns out it's like Babs Bunny from Space Jam.
Yeah, Lola Bunny.
Or Lola. Yeah, whoever.
Yeah, it was Lola.
Yeah, because I think Babs was from the TV show, wasn't she?
No, cartoon. It was the Tiny Toons.
Yeah, she was the crazy one.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's like Lola Bunny was like ground zero for furries. Because apparently some kids, when they saw that movie when they were young, felt a little antsy in their pantsies about it.
I didn't. That was a little weird to me.
I'm not a furry, but hey, whatever.
I just found that weird. I was just like, I didn't get it.
No one got it. There's only one thing we all got, and that is that Space Jam Part 2 with LeBron James sucked.
Yeah.
And never should have been made. And LeBron, no matter what he does, will never be Michael Jordan. And he needs to even stop pretending that it's a possibility that he ever could be. Because the answer is no. LeBron, sorry. You're a big goofy bastard, and you'll never be Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan or Michael Jackson. And no one will ever give a shit about you like they did him. And sorry. Most people just think you're a whiny bitch. Hey, John, how you doing? I mean, Jordan was a guy who completely changed the game. Jordan was a guy that showed up with the flu and scored 76 points. LeBron is a whiny baby who can't read and bitches about, how oppressed he is in a country that has given him hundreds of millions of dollars.
To play a game.
Right. It's like, boy, I wish somebody would have pressed me into a contract with $100 million payday. But no, apparently not. So, yeah, get the F out of here. Jordan and Jordan's Space Jam was better too. So there you go. That was ultimately where I was going with the whole thing. Picking LeBron to be the face of the new Space Jam, that was dumb. I mean, basketball players come in two flavors. Those who hate LeBron James and those who claim they like him, but they're just dick riders. I don't think anybody likes LeBron James. And if they do, I think they probably got a problem that they need to look into because he is just the most unlikable human being that I've ever seen. How you doing, John Galt? Oh, look at this guy. What'd you do? Shave off all your hair?
I got some left. It was 103 degrees up here today.
It is getting warm now.
So did you pull a Pedro?
Yeah. I took a bath and it didn't work, so I cut off all my hair.
Yeah. I went home and I was very, very hot. So I had a glass of water, but I was still very, very hot. So I decided to take a bath and it didn't work. So I cut off all my hair.
No worry, it'll be back by the time Christmas gets here.
Yeah. That's what she said.
Yeah.
Anyway, my rant against LeBron James, who I despise.
He's P. Diddy's bitch.
Yeah, yeah. So that out of the way,
Hey,
it turns out my game group isn't as full of furries as I originally thought.
so
How about me? I'm doing okay. I've been I slept a lot today. My wife was a little worried because of the amount of sleeping I did. Um, and I think it has something to do. I had a very important meeting with one of my doctors, and I found some stuff out
Funny, sure.
that is really awesome, but at the same time, it kind of oh, cool. I was wearing mine the other day. At the same time, it kind of made me, I don't know, maybe depressed or something. I just decided I was going to sleep for a while.
they were doing a count of all the nuclear weapons that different countries have.
Yeah, I saw the joke, bro.
Japan is -2, but I think
Hey, we're talking about Gamma World and Star Frontier, sir.
this is nuclear. So
No, it
Iran
does
has
not count. It
-3
does
now.
not count. You chose not to stream anymore. You could have a whole stream where you spend 2 hours telling your stupid jokes.
But I
This
come
is
on
not
to
that
yours.
stream.
Damn, I got a hairline, don't I?
No, you don't. That's your problem.
I do. It just starts at the middle of my head.
Yeah, you look like a skinny.
That was the meanest thing you've ever said to me.
You've got like the hairline of a skinny.
You've said some mean things to me in my life, but I don't know if I won't be your brother anymore now.
Oh, get out of here.
Calling me a skinny.
You're practically one.
Those are the worst people on the planet.
I don't know. I can think of another group that might give them a run for their money from a small Caribbean island.
Well,
They only own half of that island, but it's the shittiest half of an island.
yeah, those are island skinnies.
Yeah. It's been 70s here. Amazing weather. Well, that's because you live in the Eden of North America, Cal.
More
It's
like
just unfortunate that Eden has been taken over by maniacs.
more like the Sodom and Gomorrah of America.
Yeah, but okay. If you look at California, right? Take away the politics and just look at California, the weather and everything is amazing.
I used to go there every week. California is beautiful, and the weather is fantastic.
It's just it's full of idiots, you know.
It's just full of idiots.
It's the same way I feel about Michigan. It's like I love Michigan, especially UP, but I love Michigan. However, the government of Michigan and all the stupid rules and shit of Michigan, I will never live in Michigan.
And look at my state of Tennessee that I live in now. Some of the most beautiful country in the U.S., except for 3 cities, which are the worst cities in the U.S.
Yeah. What, you don't want to go to like West Memphis?
No.
Right?
I want to go to East Memphis, West Memphis, Knoxville.
Remember when the one guy wrote the song Walking in Memphis?
Yeah, if he's doing it that now.
If he wrote that song now, he'd be like, and I'm running in Memphis, trying not to get mugged by a bunch of thugs.
I was showing
Memphis.
Young Master Gregory some clips from Blazing Saddles, fantastic movie.
Right.
And we're just like, that could not be made nowadays.
Well, anyway, so.
But Spaceballs 2 is coming out.
Right.
Why, though?
So your otter.
Do we really need that anymore?
Yes. Yeah.
A quest for more money. It was prophesized.
Yeah.
Look, it's just nostalgia bait. It's not going to be good.
Yogurt said that it would come out.
Good.
I mean, I don't know if you follow the prophecies of the Schwartz, but Yogurt said 20-something years ago that it would happen. And the Schwartz is never wrong.
The Schwartz is with me.
Exactly.
I don't
Aha.
know. It still feels like a nostalgia beat to me.
Of course it is. But that don't mean it won't be funny.
We'll see.
That is the correct attitude to have.
Yeah.
We will see, won't we?
Besides all
It
the
will
other
either suck or it'll be funny. But here's the thing. Yes, Mel Brooks is like 100 years old. But Mel Brooks is still funny.
and the thing is, with all the other Pat that has been released recently or lately, it couldn't be any worse than anything else they put out.
There's been some really good movies released recently too.
Yeah,
Walking in Memphis is my song at karaoke. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
my
Yeah.
song at karaoke is "Looking Glass," Brandy. You a
Yep,
fine
that's
girl.
Hungar song, Brandy by
By
Looking Glass.
the key.
And I'm almost embarrassed to say it. And if Shadow were here, he would be all like super pleased. But my song at karaoke was "Don't Fear
Don't Fear the
by
Reaper.
Blue Oyster Cult."
Gotta have more cowbell.
Hell yeah. That was my song.
So I'm in the western or eastern. I'm up further north in Dune.
Oh, you made it out of whatever in Tahaga Valley?
Yeah, I just did the second spice breathing mission.
Yeah, so you've caught up to me because unlike our brother Warren, I suck at actually doing missions.
Yeah, and that part was the ultimate suck with the lag because you got to jump on those rocks over a certain amount of time, and they kept on disappearing on me because I was lagging so as a
and the lights that open and disintegrate you and make you start over.
Yeah, but Warren, I was talking to our brother Warren today, and he's like, "Let's play," and I was like, "Yeah, let me go eat something." It was for something. I was like, "I haven't eaten yet today, so let me eat and be right on." And he's like, "Cool." I just got called out on a call.
Yeah,
he's got
didn't have to, but I ended up turning all of my whatevers to bare minimum.
He's got a ornithopter now and a 3-person dune buggy. He wants somebody riding a dune buggy with him to.
You know what the problem is, though? He's doing what he always does in every game.
What?
He's like, "So what house are you following?" And I said, "Harkonnen." He's like, "Oh, I'm going to Atreides."
I think I'm Atreides too, but I haven't like
F those Atreides.
I haven't like committed.
I can't wait to get my black armor.
I haven't
Man, if
committed
they
to
would let
any
me go
houses
back
yet.
in and change my character appearance, I would change myself this color white and just make myself bald as shit.
That's my character.
Tattoos and shit.
I'm that color white with a black.
So you look like a Harkonnen, but you're.
I'm nothing because just because I'm from Caladan don't mean that I'm allied with any house yet.
See, I'm from Harkonnen.
And I got the black stripe tattoo all the way down the center of my face, and I got black ring like big things around my eyes that are just black.
My character was a peon on Giddy Prime.
My character was a Na Familia on Caladan until I did something to get thrown into prison. So I'm not allied.
Familia, that means you were related to.
I was one of the people who worked for the house.
Yeah. Yeah. No, peon means I was like the lowest class, just barely above a slave. But then I become a trooper. So basically, I started out dirt poor and joined the army.
I'm playing on easy mode,
which means I have no imagination because my character is basically just a reflection of my real life. I started out poor and then joined the army.
I'm playing on easy mode. Bene Gesserit is so freaking easy.
Well, plus if you get a voice changer on your computer so that you can sound like a woman, you can just run around and like beg people for stuff.
Nah, fuck that. I don't want nobody's help. But
you know how people used to in like EQ and shit? I'm a hot chick. Can I have some plats?
Hey, what's up, Will?
Hey, what's up, William? And I'd be like, no, get the F out of here.
The frickin' I can have ability where I can use the voice to make people just ignore me or just draw them to me and make them stand there so I can stab them. I get all these different knife abilities because, for some reason I'm a knife fighter, and I got abilities where the heat doesn't affect me as bad as everybody else. It's like 15-20% less, so I can be out in the sun more. And I'm immune to like pretty much all poisons and toxins.
Nice.
It's just like I just like stun people and just run up and stick them with my blood drinking knife.
Nice. When you leave out of the starting area and you get into the first or second tier area, there's like two houses side by side. You know where the flower sand is?
Yeah.
There's the two houses side by side. The one with the ramp leading up to the big door and it has all the arches on it.
Yeah.
That's my house.
Well, you need to make it where I'm allowed in your house.
But you haven't friend requested me.
Yes, I have. We're actually friends on the game, and you're allowed inside all of my houses.
Oh, well then. But I still find myself going back to the starting area a lot just to run through the wrecked spaceship.
I like the Imperial, the first Imperial base where you get all the stuff to make
research place.
Yeah.
Well, you run through the spaceship because that's the best place to get the carbon fiber filaments or whatever, and you're going to need those to make just about everything between tier 1 and 2.
Hey,
now I was
what's that, Ref?
It's getting a little late. I'll have to get off here for now. I'll see you.
All right, Left.
We're boring Left. He's like, screw this Doom talk. I'm out.
I had lag death. I had lag death yesterday, and I forgot to place down a respawn beaker. And ended up in the beginning at the freaking trade post. I was like, son of a bitch. Didn't have anything. I was like, I had to like harvest everything, build another.
My lag death. Are you saying you got ate by a worm?
No, froze in the middle of combat.
Because if you get ate by a worm, you lose everything.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have a bike or anything, and there's no way I was going to run, 1,700 whatever across the desert and get eaten by a worm. So I had to like collect everything to make up another freaking sand bike so I could cross the desert again.
Right. Well, I'll change my house. Now, one thing I added to my house was a side area that doesn't really have a door on it, but it has a ramp leading up into it. And if you ever find yourself near my house, at least until I add you to be able to enter it, and a storm's coming, you can just run up into that area and you won't get
I think I was all up in your house. Is your house 2-story?
3, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I was all up in your house today.
Well, we're friends, then I might have set some of the force doors, the shield doors, to allow friends in.
No, it was an area that didn't have a door, and as soon as you walk in, there's like a water cistern, a water tank.
Well, that I did so that people running by could get some water.
I keep leader johns on me.
Yeah, it's just to help out people wandering through the desert. If they, get caught in a storm or they're dying of thirst, they can run there. And, I have it disconnected so that however much they take out of it won't affect my stuff. But, because once you develop the scythe, every morning there's a period of time you hit T and you can see the right period of time.
Oh yeah.
But the dew flowers will have like the mist coming up.
Yeah.
And you run up and use that and you can fill up so many leader johns. If you're like me and you're not going adventuring on that day, you just run into the house and deposit all the water into your cistern. Plus, I've got the advanced blood whatever. So sometimes, like, when the Sardaukar ships fly over, Like
And
I'll
get-
run out and jump right in the spotlight, like, hey, and they send 4 Sardaukar down and I'll kill them and drain all their blood.
Yeah,
And
catch
then
you in
run
the
into my
damn
house.
freaking. That aggravated. The first time that happened to me, I was like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, because you get lifted up by the shield thing, and then all of a sudden 4 dudes jump out and they're like, I got your back. Let's get him. Yeah, I'm all like, all right,
I've only
bitch.
got 2 leader Johns, but I've got the scythe, and I just wait until it's around morning time when you see that mist coming off the flowers. It's like time to fill up the leader Johns.
Dude, I shit you not, I am carrying on me right now 6 liter Johns full.
I'm carrying 5 blood bags because
I got rid of the bunch of the blood bags, and now I carry 2 medium blood bags. And
Yeah, I haven't made.
I have a
medium.
Mark II or Mark III.
I only have. I know I can make the Mark.
Or whatever the hell it's called.
I can make the Mark II, but I haven't got the stuff to make it yet because I just learned it earlier today.
I can make you one.
Well, as soon as you start playing the same time I did and check your messages.
Yeah, that is a negative with the game, is that the messages are not easy for me to see. It's like they pop up just barely in the corner and they're not big. I might have to, if it's like every other MMO, there's probably a way to go in and fix it so that shit's a little bit more noticeable. Because I guess Warren sent me so many messages, and he eventually called me on the phone and was like, "Are you mad at me?" And I was like, "No. Why would I be mad at you, bro?"
You
He's
actually
like,
answered
I've been
your
sending
phone.
messages all morning, and I'm like, "Oh shit, sorry, man." And,
I'm surprised you answered your phone.
Well, I had to have it on me because I was waiting for a call from a doctor. So I love Elvis. I love Elvis too.
Who doesn't love Elvis?
I really do.
I can't wait till I get my new computer in a few weeks. It'll be here.
Elvis is the king. I don't care what anyone says.
I'm getting a gaming laptop with Windows 4th Gen i7. And
are you getting the one like I have, or a better one?
A little better.
Nice.
And it's got the brand new GeForce hardcore video card, laptop video card.
Yeah.
And terabyte of memory and a bunch of DDR.
Yeah, the biggest problem I had in the game is my game runs everything at highest graphics beautifully, except for 2 areas. However, those 2 areas are the 2 areas I need to finish quests in. So I'm like, F it, turned everything down to the lowest setting. I can't even tell the difference.
Yeah, and
But
I've got
now
this.
I can run through the quest area, kill all those bastards. Oh, I did unlock Planetologist, by the way.
Yeah, Warren was telling me that I gotta go way up north for the 2nd tier Benny Gesserit stuff. But
Yes,
he said he'd just fly me in his thopter.
it's Falcon's Landing or something like that.
Yeah, but he's got ornithopter.
Yeah, I just rode my bike up there.
But with my
and because I'm a planetologist and I've skilled out, I lose a lot less endurance when I climb.
That's what Warren said. I just use my fucking grav belt to.
Well, I've got my grav belt. I've got the less endurance loss when I climb, and I've got my Shiga wire grappling hook.
Yes.
So I'm all like, I'll Shiga wire it. It'll shoot me straight up, then double tap the grav belt, which shoots you up even further, then grab the cliff and climb up. Yeah. Like I can climb up the barrier wall in no time.
And with my external hard drive, I just be able to hook that up to my new computer and be good to go.
I am like, it's weird. Before this game came out, I 100% was complaining how there hasn't been an MMO to capture my attention in a decade.
And then, dude,
since Arcade jumped the shark really bad.
Well, Conan's fun.
Conan is fun, and I don't mind the private server thing Which Warren was asking me about private servers, and I told him point blank that I was watching the dev thing. They're not doing private servers for Doom. You will
can
not
buy
be
a
able to
server,
buy
but
your own server for Doom
yeah,
because, or if you can, then you're completely not going to be part of the actual game.
yeah, you can buy your own server for Doom, but you're not part of the game. You're just part in your
It'll
own little
just be
sandbox.
you running around the world.
Yeah, you can have your friends play in it, but it's just a little sandbox. And what are you going to do? Turn off the worm? Why would you do that?
Well, and another thing that recently was announced is that they're adding the tier 5 and 6 PvE areas. So there will be zones in the deep desert where you can go without getting, jacked by a bunch of sweats that just spend all day camping the zone line waiting to shoot down some idiot that just wants, a few pounds of spice. But then again, I had a spice blow out front of my house today. I could have ran out there with my compactor and gathered it up, but I was busy leveling up my trooper. I got trooper to level 2, planetologist is level 2, and Mentat's still level 1.
I did not know what that was at first. Every time I heard the explosion and the noise coming from the desert, I was like, fuck, it's sandworm. I saw all the dust flight up, like, oh, it's sandworm, gotta run, right? And then I walked through this area of flower sand, and I was like, and it said hit E. So I hit E, and I started.
Well, the boom is not flower sand. Flower sand is just ultra fine dust, but you need it to make silicon cubes.
Oh yeah, I know. I've been making those. You're
going to need thousands of those because literally everything tier 3 and above requires those.
Yeah, I've been making
them. They take a lot of water to make too.
I got my cutting torch leveled up.
Well, the Mark II is okay. I'm getting ready to build a Mark III because I finally found the lens focusers and shit, which means I'll be able to climb up on the barrier wall and actually start mining aluminum.
What pisses me off is I can't use the cutting torch on people.
On what?
People.
It has a safety built in.
Yeah, but if you can override that safety and use that cutting laser on people.
Just like all of the las rifles that get imported into Dune, Chum put a safety device on it.
Yeah, because of the
damn. You can't fire it at a shield.
I have the second tier rifle, the automatic assault rifle. I never use it. I just use my knife.
That is the same thing that's happened with me. I started as a trooper, and a lot of my skills are all about doing extra damage with firearms. But, we'll be back. Where are you going? Store. Without me?
Well, you're live streaming.
For 12 more minutes. Literally 12 minutes. And I love going to the store with you guys. Well, watch him outside and then come back inside and then, okay.
I was talking to Warren today, and I'm thinking my second class is going to be swordsman because you get all the bonus damages with blades plus the bonuses against dehydration and being in the sun with that also with the Bene Gesserit.
So swordsman and Bene Gesserit are very...
Yeah, where I can basically walk in the desert without a still suit.
So you can be like Dr. Kynes.
Yeah.
I am a desert creature.
Exactly. I want to be a desert creature.
Planetologist has some really great abilities because they make it where your vehicles and weapons and shit do not degrade. That's as bad as normal. Because you know how every time you go out to do anything, shit degrades, and you got to.
That's why when I
never repairs up to what it was.
That's why when I discovered the tool that I could just pick my bike up and put it up, it made my life so much easier because I've made like 5 freaking desert bikes. Nice, call me buddy.
Yeah, it's Buddy. Well, I mean, you can't have Buddy though without
The kid. Why didn't you make Philip and Marlo, man?
because I didn't find those STLs.
I
But-
watched the other night when you were talking about that on your stream. I ended up watching it that night.
Radioactive Dreams. Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yes, it is. And
I watched
the
it
hell out of
a couple days ago.
Me too.
We're a couple of big dicks. You sure are.
You're a Mondo Mondo nerd or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like
One
step
guy's
back.
out.
Your breath smells like kerosene and it's wrinkling my suit.
Right. You crossed the line, Dusty. There's no coming back from that. Or Rusty or whatever her name was.
Brain implosion energy, 10,000 grams of pure caffeine, because you can't overthink when your heart stops.
Right.
I love my brain implosion juice that makes my brain go. That's my favorite part. When
And
she's
another one I think you can actually watch on YouTube is Six String Samurai.
Yep.
But
been
here's
watching a
the
bunch
thing.
of-
If you watch Six String Samurai and you don't like it, it means there's something wrong with you personally.
What you drink there? Give me some of that. You don't want none of this toilet water, buddy.
You don't want none of this toilet water. Yeah, because you're like,
Hey, TCG.
hey, what's up? He's like, give me a sip off that toilet water, little man.
I look like a young Danny DeVito. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said about me.
Like,
Danny
like,
DeVito's
like he's just cruising around Boston or Philadelphia giving people eggs.
or hanging out with Arnold Schwarzenegger. 'cause
Can I
he's my
interest you
twin.
in a hard-boiled egg?
Hey, would you like some of this rum ham?
Yeah. Freaking, it's always sunny in Philadelphia. That shit's
Have
crazy.
you been drinking green paint again? Yeah.
When they decide they want to get on welfare, and the best way to get on welfare is to become crackheads.
And the one dude stays a crackhead.
Yeah.
You thinking what I'm thinking? Yeah, let's do some crack. No, I was thinking that.
Anyway,
Yeah, bugger off. I love you.
I love you. I'm going to go hang out with my wife and go to
I'm
the
going to play
store.
Dune.
Okay, I might be on when I get back. So this is the end of Monday's hanging out on the porch with me and whatever. And I will talk to you guys
Peace, love, and chicken grease.
later. And if you haven't looked at Dune and you like MMOs, it's actually pretty fun if you like Dune. If you don't like Dune, you're not going to like it because this game actually makes it difficult just to exist in the world, let alone to do things in the world.
Yeah, you spend your time just looking for water.
Yeah, basically, you can't AFK in Dune because if you like AFK to go to the bathroom and you're gone too long, your character will dehydrate and die. So,
Unless you,
you know,
like
but
in your
anyway,
house.
peace and love. God bless. Bless his coming and going, and may Shai Hulud keep the world for his people.
Walk without rhythm.
Walk without rhythm, and you won't attract the worm. But if you walk without rhythm,
You'll never learn.